Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm actually recording this intro from a hotel room while I'm on the road. So if it sounds a little different, well, that's why. Today's episode is a little different than what I normally do. This is part of a longer conversation I had with my friend Joey, where I share more of my personal story than I ever have before. If you've been listening, you know pieces of my journey, but this conversation really goes deeper into my childhood, losing my mom at a young age, and what it was like to eventually find her years later. I'm going to be sharing this conversation in a few parts because it's a long one, and honestly, it's a meaningful one. So, this is part one. Thanks for being here. This one means a lot to me.
Tell me about your childhood.
Yeah, hey, for sure, for sure. So I ended up I was born in a little town in southwestern Minnesota called Tracy, and we had a big old tornado come through. Actually, a F5. Um, yeah, it was huge, and our house got basically uh, in an unlivable condition. My dad reached out to his sister, my aunt Dorothy, that lived in Northfield, and so that led us to Northfield. And, uh,
How old were you when the twister came through?
the Twister, I was like, 4 years old, I wanna say, like, or
Do you remember it?
maybe even 3.5. Not not really, I mean, just
Yeah.
really kinda vaguely, and I did run across a photo of me in the newspaper, in kinda like a I don't know, not really quite a diaper, but really not like, shorts, I don't know,
You were
back in the day.
swaddled?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, just wandering around aimlessly. No, but, yeah, so then that ended up leading us to Northfield and moved here with my dad, my mom, and my sister, as I call her.
Mm.
Um, and then, yeah, and then things progressed. I didn't live in Northfield for long, Joy, because what ended up happening is, on, September 1st, 1970 was my first day of kindergarten. And my mom dropped me off, and I ended up being the last kid to get picked up, because it turns out that my mom decided to start a brand new life for herself that day. Um, well, needless to say, my dad freaked out, um, and he ended up shipping me and my sister to live with, with different relatives. I went to New Carlisle, Ohio to, finish kindergarten. And then my sister, she went to Woodbridge, Virginia, to live with an aunt, and in New Carlisle, I was with an aunt, sister of my mom's. Nobody had a clue what happened to my mom, no one. Um, and, she just completely vanished. Um, and, and then, of course, there's a lot of speculation around that too, because it's like I remember, uh at Aunt Dorothy's house later, years later, I would come and visit, and, there was this gal that lived with Aunt Dorothy and Uncle Ozzie, and her name was Grandma Grace. Well, I she's just a sweet, sweet, woman and old, right? And so anyways, I wanted to make a connection with her and so I'd go and I would chat, with her from time to time, just a few times, probably, I don't know, 6 maybe 6 visits. And and so we'd have these nice conversations, and at the end, when I'd give her a hug, she'd be like, "Now, Sonny, now what's your name?" And, because she was certain that what had happened is that my mom got thrown into the river, and, and so, yeah, she had all kinds of ideas.
Huh.
Uh, yeah, yeah, it's kinda wild, but, yeah, so
Did you ever find out what happened to your mom?
I did, and it was a real journey to get there because initially, later in life, I was like, well, when I say later, like, probably like, teenage and early adult, young adult years, I was just like, okay, she's she's left. I don't know what's happened to her. Um, and I'm okay. Um, and when actually I ended up meeting a wonderful gal that I'm been married to now, just uh, well, coming up on 40 years
Wow.
this September, and she's like, in our early courting days, she says, you know, "Do you ever want to find her?" And I'm like, I I really don't. I'm okay. Well, one day I was working at a travel club up in the cities, outfit called Northwest Airlines, and they don't exist no more. And
Yeah.
um and so one day I came home from work and I told Kathy, I says, "You know what?" I said, "I'm going to find my mom." And I like grabbed food. I went upstairs and shut myself in a room. I took little uh like kind of like I would liken it to like a Rolodex, notes that my dad had, different addresses where we had lived and family members and stuff. And I just started calling all these people in there and just trying desperately to make some sort of connection. And what that ended up leading to is I even went as far as I checked out genealogy libraries, and and yeah, and so I was like bent on finding my mom. 2 weeks to the day of starting the search, I actually, through a bizarre twist, I I came across her Social Security number from my sister's ex-husband. He'd gotten a card from someone, and I wanna say it was my grandma, I don't know who, but I think it was my grandma. He got a card from her, and there was a number written on there. And for whatever reason, he didn't throw the card away, but it didn't say, "This is your mom's Social Security number you've been looking for all of your life." Um, you know, "Be
Look
sure and give this."
here.
Yeah, "Be sure and give this to Steve." Um, and, it didn't say that. And so anyways, he gave that to me, and I'm looking at the digits after I hung up, and I'm like, "Oh, weird." And so I ended up calling the Social Security Administration and shared with them my story, and um, they ended up sharing with me more. They kind of told me that it was more information than they ought to have given me, um, and just a snippet, and well, that ended up leading to, you know, ultimately finding my mom in Seattle, and
Wow.
yeah, and so because it ended up having the uh, what the information they gave me was the last place that she had worked, and it was for a company called Safeway Foods. Well, the corporate headquarters for Safeway Foods is in California, and plus it also let me know that my mom has got a new name. She's got the same last name as some of our favorite characters all in all of our lives, and that's, Lucy and Linus Van Pelt. Yeah, from Snoopy.
From Peanuts, yeah.
From Peanuts. Yeah, exactly, not Snoopy, but Peanuts, and so I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And so and this whole time I'm on the phone with my sister and, and so I call this I turns out there's this guy, there's one Van Pelt that works at Safeway Foods in California, and it's a man. And so I called him up and
Wow.
share with him a little bit of my of this information, and I don't know, I think he kind of freaked out. And so anyways, I didn't get anywhere that I wanted. and my sister's like, "I'm calling him." And so she calls him, and and the guy ends up divulging to my sister that he had gotten, um, inner office mail from Bellevue, Washington, for someone with the same last name, named
Wow.
Mary Van Pelt. And my mom, you know, uh, she always went by Jackie. Um, and Mary Jacqueline was her name. And so anyways, Mary Van Pelt. And so
So
I'm
his
like,
only connection to her was that he got her mail by accident.
he got her mail like one time, right?
Wow.
And so it's like it's crazy. And so then with that break that break in the case, if you will, I ended up I end up going uh and calling. I find the number for Bellevue, uh, Safeway Foods, and I call them up, and I share with them a little bit of my, a little bit of my, my story, and I let them know I'd like to speak to HR, and and they're all like, I don't know, it was wild, and so anyways, I get a hold of HR. I have this conversation with them. And they were all just really listening, just listening, and that's about it. Um, well, then I'm not sure exactly why. I know why because I was getting close, right? And so I called back and I talked to the receptionist, and she said, "I just want you to know that it's that she hired me." When she said those words, "She hired me," Joey, that's the closest I'd been to my mom since I was 5, and this was in 1996. So, that was just, oh my gosh, I mean, just so much
Her
energy.
saying that was I know your mom.
Right,
She hired me.
exactly.
Your mom hired me.
Yeah,
Your mom
exactly.
became real. Like,
Right,
she re she reconstituted.
right, exactly, and all of a sudden, she's alive,
Yeah.
you know? And, you know, and so yeah, but I ended up knowing that she wasn't alive because, she had passed away in '94. Um, and
So
so
that's what you found out,
yeah, that's what
that
I
you had
found.
found her, but that she had passed away.
Yep, yep.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and so it ended up, Joey, leading to uh, a trip. Since I was working for that travel club, I was able to, fly my sister and I, first class out to Seattle, and, uh, the company had great had great benefits back in the day, and so we flew out to Seattle. We ended up meeting the step family that we never knew we had, um, and oh my goodness, they were so skeptical of us, it's crazy, but the reason why they even welcomed us in was really compliments of my sister because when once we found, um more information and the death certificate, and then who signed the death certificate, and that sort of thing. That's what led us to the Step family. Well, my sister wanted to be the first one to call them, and she calls this gal, Robin is her name, and the first thing she asked Robin, the very first thing, "I just wanna know, did she still have her red fingernails and her Pepsi on ice?" Okay,
Is your s
Robin
is your s is Yeah, sorry.
right then and there, Robin knew that we're legit,
Right.
because 100%, my mom's all about the red fingernails and the Pepsi on ice, all about it, like,
So
who
Robin was like, "Oh my god, yeah,
right, right,
she
so
got her."
Robin and her husband, Mark, they ended up inviting us into their home, um, and we stayed with them, had amazing visits. I actually have one of the I have a lot of I have I have a lot of unfinished business around this whole thing of my mother in that, um, not really closure-wise, but just bits and pieces. So, like, I brought with me a micro cassette recorder, okay? And I've got, like, 14 of these micro cassettes, and I always be like, you know, "Okay, speaking in the microphone, move the thing a little closer to the people talking," and now I really, you know, I don't even think they play anymore. So one of the so
I
one
have
of
a
the
micro cassette player if you need to borrow it. It
yeah,
still works.
I have one, but it's like, "Wah, wah," you know, it's just
Right.
yeah, it's kinda like some of those, characters from Peanuts, when they're talking. Um,
Yeah, the teachers, all the adults. "Wah, wah, 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 wah,
exactly,
wah."
exactly. So